I never planned to tell my family who I really was. For 3 years, I worked as a housekeeper at the Richardson Grand Hotel, which was our family's pride and joy. But what they didn't know was that I was also the CEO of Lux Global Hotels, the third largest hotel chain in the world. Family can push you to your limits, especially when they think you're beneath them. My name is Grace Chen, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the best way to teach humility is to let people show their own arrogance. The Richardson Grand had been in our family for 2 generations. My uncle, Thomas, took it over from my grandfather and turned it from a small local hotel into a well-known regional one. But now, it was struggling. It couldn't keep up with modern trends, and it was drowning in debt, something my uncle refused to admit. I remember the day I decided to work there. I had just finished a meeting with my team at Lux Global. We were talking about buying hotels in the Northeast, and the Richardson Grand came up. My CFO said, "The Richardson family doesn't want to sell, but they're in deep debt. In 6 months to a year, they'll have to sell for way less than it's worth." I couldn't let that happen. This hotel was my family's legacy, even if they didn't know who I really was, even if they thought I was just the quiet niece who didn't do much, I had to help. So, I did something unexpected. I applied to work there as a housekeeper. "Why would you want to work here?" HR asked, confused. "You have a degree from Cornell's hotel school." "I believe in starting from the ground up," I replied. They didn't understand what I really meant. For 3 years, I cleaned rooms, changed sheets, and quietly watched everything that was wrong with the hotel, all while running my billion-dollar company during my breaks and after work. My cousin, Bradley, who managed the hotel, loved to remind me of my place. "Grace, the bathroom in 306 needs cleaning," he'd say loudly in the lobby, making sure everyone heard. "Don't take all day." I did my job perfectly, though. I noticed every leaky pipe, every broken system, and every guest complaint. I wrote it all down, but no one paid attention to me. They just saw me as the quiet housekeeper who kept to herself. Everything changed last Tuesday at the family business meeting. I wasn't usually invited, but Bradley wanted me there this time. The family gathered in the hotel's fancy conference room. Uncle Thomas sat at the head of the table, with his wife, Margaret, beside him. Bradley stood at the front, excited to share his big plan. "As you all know," he began, "the hotel industry is changing. We need to modernize to compete." He showed a slide. "That's why I've come up with a new rebranding strategy." I almost choked. His plan was almost exactly the same as one I had used at Lux Global 2 years ago. He must have copied it from somewhere. "We'll need to let go of some staff," Bradley continued, looking right at me. "Starting with outdated roles like full-time housekeepers. We'll hire a cleaning service instead." The room went quiet. Everyone knew he was talking about me. "Now, Bradley," Aunt Margaret said, pretending to care, "Grace's family, maybe we can find her another job, in the laundry, maybe?" I stayed quiet, watching Bradley's plan unfold. For 3 years, he had looked down on me, and now he wanted to fire me in front of everyone to prove he was the successful one. "Actually," Bradley said, full of himself, "I've already arranged everything. The new cleaning service starts next week." He turned to me with a fake smile. "Grace, consider this your notice. Bring back your uniform by Friday." I could have told them everything right then. I could have shown them my CEO title or mentioned that I ran a company with over 200 hotels, but instead, I stood up, smoothed my uniform, and smiled. "Of course, Bradley, I understand." I turned to leave but paused at the door. "Oh, and congratulations. That rebranding strategy worked great when Lux Global used it 2 years ago." I walked away, leaving them shocked. Bradley tried to explain, but it was too late. What they didn't know was that during my 3 years as a housekeeper, I had written down every problem with the hotel, broken systems, health code violations, and even Bradley's shady accounting. And the next day, the CEO of Lux Global, me, was coming to inspect the hotel. That night, I stayed in my small apartment, planning what would happen next. My phone buzzed with messages from family, some worried, some warning me not to cause trouble. I ignored them and emailed my team at Lux Global. "Go ahead with Operation Richardson tomorrow. Make sure Bradley is there for the whole inspection." It's time he learned what real hotel management looks like. As I hit send, I smiled. Bradley always said I needed to know my place. He was about to find out what that place really was. The next morning, I arrived at the hotel at 9 a.m., but not in my housekeeper uniform. I wore a sharp suit from my CEO wardrobe. My heels clicked on the marble floor as I walked in, turning heads. "Excuse me, miss," Bradley called from the front desk. "Can I help you?" He stopped when he saw it was me. "Grace, why are you dressed like that?" "Good morning, Bradley," I said calmly. "I believe you're expecting the CEO of Lux Global Hotels today." He looked confused. "Yes, but you need to leave. We have an important inspection, and I can't have you causing trouble." The elevator dinged, and my team stepped out: Thomas, my CFO, Sarah, head of operations, and Michael, our lawyer, people who had been running Lux Global with me for years. "Mrs. Chen," Thomas said, nodding professionally, "the reports you asked for are ready." Bradley turned pale. "Mrs. Chen, what's going on?" "Let's move to the conference room," I said, "and, Bradley, call Uncle Thomas and Aunt Margaret. They'll want to be here for this." 30 minutes later, my family sat in the same room where they'd fired me the day before, but now, the power had shifted. My team sat on one side of the table, and my family sat on the other, looking stunned. "Let me make this clear," I began. I stood at the head of the table where Uncle Thomas usually sat and began. "For the past 3 years, while working as a housekeeper here, I've also been the CEO of Lux Global Hotels. Every break I took wasn't wasted, like Bradley said, but spent running a company with over 200 hotels." "That's impossible," Aunt Margaret whispered. "You're just a maid," I finished for her. "That's exactly why this worked so well. You all thought I was nobody. None of you even bothered to Google my name or wonder why someone with a degree from Cornell would work as a housekeeper." I opened my laptop and showed some documents on the screen. "While working here, I wrote down every health code violation, every broken system, and every shady money move." I looked at Bradley, who suddenly seemed very interested in the table, including the $500,000 renovation budget that actually went to cover gambling debts. Uncle Thomas turned to his son. "Bradley, is this true?" "Dad, I can explain." I didn't let him finish. "The Richardson Grand is 3 months away from going broke. Your reputation is bad, and your staff turnover rate is almost 80% a year. This hotel is failing." The room went quiet. 3 years of truth came out in one moment. "Why?" Uncle Thomas asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why work as a housekeeper if you're really who you say you are?" I sat down and spoke softly. "Because this hotel is our family's legacy. Grandfather built it from nothing. I couldn't let it fail. I needed to see what was wrong before I could fix it." "Fix it?" Bradley said, finding his voice again. "We don't need your help, and I still don't believe you're really—" Sarah slid a folder across the table. "Here's Mrs. Chen's credentials, press coverage, and company documents. You can check everything." As my family looked through the papers, their faces showed disbelief, shock, and finally understanding. I gave them their options. Lux Global is ready to buy the Richardson Grand, a very fair offer. Considering its current state, we'll keep the family name and history but bring it up to modern standards. "Or," Uncle Thomas asked. "Or I walk away, both as a housekeeper and as a buyer. But I'll warn you, the next company that buys this hotel won't care about your legacy. They'll tear it down and build something new." Aunt Margaret, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "All those times we looked down on you, treated you like you were nothing, you could have said something. Would you have believed me?" I asked quietly, "or would you have thought it was just the lies of a maid?" The silence said it all. I stood up, gathering my papers. "I'll give you 24 hours to decide. If you accept our offer, the Richardson Grand will become the main hotel in our new Classic Hotels division. If not," I shrugged, "I hear developers are offering good money for the land." As I turned to leave, Bradley stopped me. "Wait, the rebranding plan I showed yesterday, was it copied from your idea 2 years ago?" "Yes, I know," I said without turning around. "Next time you steal someone's work, Bradley, make sure they're not in the room." The next 24 hours were tense. My phone stayed quiet as my family thought about everything. I stayed in my small apartment, finally able to work openly on my laptop without hiding who I was. At exactly 9 a.m., the next morning, Uncle Thomas called. "We accept," he said, his voice full of emotion. "But, Grace, I need to know, can you forgive us?" I thought about all the times they ignored me, looked down on me, and treated me like I didn't matter, but I also thought about my grandfather, who taught me that true leadership isn't about revenge, it's about making things better. "I'm not interested in forgiveness, Uncle Thomas. I'm interested in making the Richardson Grand great again. Are you ready to help me do that?" The hotel's transformation took 6 months. Bradley was sent to our hotel in Miami, starting as an assistant manager to learn the business properly. Uncle Thomas retired but stayed as a consultant, finally using his years of experience without the stress of running everything. The Richardson Grand became our most successful classic hotel, a perfect mix of old charm and modern style. Staff turnover dropped to 15%, and guest satisfaction scores went way up. 1 year later, I stood in the newly renovated lobby, watching guests check in. The crystal chandeliers sparkled, restored to their old beauty. A new plaque on the wall told the story of how my grandfather built the hotel with nothing but a dream. Aunt Margaret stood beside me, looking proud. "You know, Grace, I think I finally understand why you did it this way." "Oh?" I asked, curious. "You could have bought the hotel 3 years ago. You could have forced us out. Instead, you chose to learn everything from the ground up, every problem, every detail, every way to make it better." I smiled. "The best leaders don't just give orders, Aunt Margaret. They understand every part of their business, from cleaning rooms to managing millions." "Your grandfather would be proud," she said softly, "not just for saving the hotel, but for how you did it." As I watched another happy family check in, I thought about everything that had happened, the 3 years of being ignored, cleaning rooms while running a global company, and staying quiet through so many family meetings. Was it worth it? The hotel's new rating had just come in that morning, 5 stars, the highest score. Our rooms were 95% full, and we had a waiting list for the best ones. The staff moved through the lobby with pride, each one well-trained and fairly paid. But more importantly, my family had learned about humility, respect, and true leadership. Bradley was doing well in Miami, finally understanding that success comes from hard work and honesty, not arrogance and shortcuts. Yes, it had been worth it. I straightened my suit jacket and went to my office, the same room where Bradley once told me to clean bathrooms. Now, it was the center of operations for both the Richardson Grand and my work as CEO of Lux Global. On my desk was a photo of my grandfather, standing proudly in front of his new hotel. Next to it was my old housekeeper's uniform, in a shadow box with a small plaque that said, "Never forget where you started." And I never would, because sometimes, the best way to lead isn't from the top, but from within. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch most closely. And sometimes, just sometimes, the maid making your bed is actually the CEO, making sure everything is perfect. As for me, I still sometimes put on a housekeeper's uniform and work with the staff for a day. It keeps me grounded and reminds me of what matters most in this business, the small details that make a hotel feel like home. After all, you never know who might be watching, learning, and waiting for the right moment to show their true worth.